So, speaking of investigations, apparently there's a so-called win for Puff, but not really a win for Puff. Not really a win for him. Not when they're saying that they have probable cause to actually search the cell. I don't necessarily think that that's, I'm just saying. There's been a few filings since that day, huh? All right, we're going to look at a couple of them. Especially D. We got to look at D. No Diddy. We got to look at D. Exhibit D. Exhibit A. All right, not this one. Oh. Is that one? No, it's this one. Now, of course, some of y'all have already looked at this. Shout out to Surprise Witness TV, who pretty much broke this down. Shout out to Surprise Witness TV. BJ Investigates. Gotta love her channel. Okay, so argument. Under the Bail Reform Act, the District Court has discretion to reopen a bail hearing if information comes to light that is both new and material to the detention question. United States versus Zhang. Specifically, a bail deterioration may be reopened before trial if the judicial officer finds that information exists that was not known to the movant at the time of the hearing, and that has material hearing. On the issue whether there are conditions of release that will reasonably assure that appearance of such person as required and the safety of any other person and the community. However, a bail hearing should not be reopened on the basis of information that was available to the defendant at the time of the hearing. And I guess they were just citing different cases, I should say. But this is, of course, about Mr. Sean Diddy Combs. About Mr. Sean Diddy Combs. Did I pass? Okay, I'm at the argument. Just making sure. So November 16th, courts in the Second Circuit have found that new and material information of Section 314 purposes consist of something other than a defendant's own evaluation of his character or the strength of the case against him. Truly changed circumstances, something unexpected, or a significant event. Moreover, because the Bail Reform Act states only that a hearing may be reopened if new and material information is presented, it leaves the decision to reopen a hearing to the sound discretion of the district court. Therefore, even if the defendant's arguments for reopening the hearing met the standard, which they do not, this court may still decide in its discretion not to reopen the hearing. So pretty much if they have reason, like they have probable cause to search everything, if they have reason to not want to reopen this bitch, they will not reopen it whatsoever. That's just what I say right there. So let's just move on down to the actual discussion right here. So the court should reject the defendant's attempt to reopen the bail hearing based on the same information he presented to Judge Carter. A defendant's motion to reopen the bail hearing should be denied for the simple reason that he has not presented any information that was not known to him at the time of the bail hearing before Judge Carter. As set forth below, the defendant asserts that the court should consider new information relating to the defendant's relationship with victim 1 and his communications with various witnesses as a basis to reopen the bail hearing. But these allegedly new facts are the very same arguments made by defense counsel and rejected by the district court previously, dressed up with recently produced discovery, because those facts were well known to the defendant before any discovery production, and because the defendant relied upon them in his prior hearing, he cannot recycle them here to revisit the sound determination made by Judge Carter. The defendant is a danger and risk to obstruction and must be detained. Now, of course, it's because they pretty much realized that he was witness tampering at this point. So defendants are rehashing of the same personal attacks he made against victim one before Judge Carter is not new information. The defendant claims that communications between the defendant and victim one. Now, I think victim one, I don't think if people realize victim one sounds like it's Cassie. If we're talking about victim one sounds like Cassie, honestly, which were recently produced in discovery as part of the defendant's electronic devices and accountants, constitute new material. The defendant claims that the recently produced text messages reveal a loving, at times toxic, long-term relationship between two adults who decided mutually to break up. This is definitely Cassie. Okay, so this claims and is nothing new. Defense counsel made these exact points previously and even referred to text messages and communication at the September 17, 2024 hearing. After noting that he had looked through more text messages and emails than he cared to, defense counsel, this is a 10-year relationship. See? This sex trafficking is a 10-year relationship. These two people were in love. That will be made abundantly clear by the way they speak to each other, by the way other witnesses describe their time together, and by the circumstances of how they broke up. They were in love, but Mr. Combs wasn't always faithful. At the end of the day, there was mutual philandering, and victim number one ended up marrying the trainer that Mr. Combs got for her and had 2 children. That signaled the end of the relationship. There is nothing about the content of the text messages between the defendant and victim one that was not known to the defendant at the time initial hearing. Furthermore, in presenting recently produced text messages, the defendant cherry picks to paint a misleading picture, ignoring numerous other messages in the record between the defendant and victim one, documenting the defendant's physical abuse of victim one and his threats to expose recordings of freak-offs. You know what sick and disgusting shit I was reminded of the other day? You forcing me to admit you were going to leak some freak-off shit at, let me see, okay. At 10, I have a black eye and fat lip. You are sick of thinking it's okay to do what you've done. And I still have crazy bruising. This is pretty much Cassie talking to him. I turn my head for a second and you get fucked up and you drag me down the hall by my hair. I have bleeding cuts. You hit me in the head 2 good times. When you get fucked up in the wrong way, you always want to show me that you have the power and you knock me around. I'm not a rag doll. I'm someone's child. This is the shit that they found in his, these are the text messages they found. They're his. Moreover, despite attaching lengthy text messages between the defendant and victim one on various dates between August and November 2018, the defendant omits messages produced in the same thread about the defendant's violence. The defendant also rehashes his attacks on victim one's motives in bringing a civil lawsuit against the defendant, suggesting the victim one's allegations against the defendant were merely attempts to obtain financial windfall from Mr. Combs. Across multiple bail hearings and in the instant brief, the defendant has made clear that his litigation strategy is to personally attack victim one, stooping to any depth to attempt to undermine her credibility. Setting aside this questionable strategy, none of the information that purportedly undermines victim one's motives was known to the defendant at the initial bail hearing. Again, defense counsel made all of these arguments previously. Now, the crazy thing is they put in there as victim one. Now, why are they not just saying Cassie, considering she already settled? I'm thinking about that as well. That's the wild part right there. They're just saying her as victim one, like we don't know it's Cassie right there. So victim one's motives was unknown to the defendant at the initial bail hearing. Again, defense counsel made all of these arguments previously. These arguments have no bearing on the question of bail. The purpose of a bail motion is to determine whether there are conditions that will assure the safety of the community and the defendant's appearance in court, not to entertain the personal attacks on a statutory victim. To the extent defendant tasks issue with victim one's credibility, a trial is the appropriate forum to address that. What does it say? Okay, so it's another citing right there. Address that holding. What does it say? Okay, this is more just citing right here. Okay, information was not sufficient grounds to reopen a bail hearing. Okay, so address that sufficient information was not, sufficient enough to grant the bail hearing. So the court should reject the defendant's request to reopen the bail hearing because the defendant disagrees with the government's use of the term victim. So let's move on down here. The defendant next accuses the government of misleading the court as to the nature of certain of the defendant's communications with another victim. Victim 2. Now, I wonder who this is now. Victim 2, I guess, is Rodney Jones, in my opinion. The government did no such thing. The defendant's primary point of contention appears to be the government's characterization of this individual as a victim, and quibbling about how to label victim 2, an individual to whom the defendant continues to pay a significantly monthly sum. Still paying some money to. Okay. So victim 2 is someone he's still paying money to. Let's keep that in mind. So the defendant does not present any information of grapple with the actual evidence, the messages and recordings between the defendant and victim 2 on which the government relied at the initial bail hearing are clear on their face and consistent with the government's representations. The defendant was leveraging the significant financial benefits to cause victim 2 to adopt his narrative of their relationship. Whether or not the defendant agrees with the characterization of victim 2 as a victim for purposes of the criminal case, the communications highlighted by the government indicate that the defendant used financial coercion to attempt to feed victim 2 a narrative that was consistent with his defense story. So this is definitely this definitely sounds like a little rod. Theory at odds with the contemporaneous text messages sent by victim 2 by the defendant and others. Let's see. Just threatened me about my sex tapes, where I am heavily drugged and doing things he asked of me. Okay, doing things that he asked of me. Yeah, this is definitely a little raw that they talk about here. Describe victim 2's sexual trauma. In light of the defendant's continuing financial support of victim 2, it is not the government, but rather the defendant that is misleading the court. That's crazy right there. So he's trying to say that Little Rod is pretty much taking money under the table from Diddy as bribery money just to keep quiet. So the defendant contacts with witness that demonstrate at the threat he poses to the integrity of these proceedings. The defendant attempts to spin his contacts with witnesses. So this is witness 1 that they're going to talk about here. So the defendant attempts to spin his contacts with witness, including witnesses served by or with grand jury subpoenas as evidence, rebutting the government proof of obstruction fail in their entirety. For example, the defendant claims that the government misled the court and concealed the actual content of the communication between the defendant and a witness who was served with a grand jury subpoena in June 2024. This is definitely Don Richardson here, June 2024. As initial matter, the nature and substance of the defendant's communication with witness 1 was known to the defendant. So this is people that pretty much he's already had contact with, that he's spent time with in his career as well. You can tell these aren't defendants from the Busby cases or anything like that. So defendant at the time of the initial hearing, but more importantly, these contacts, including the fact that the defendant evidently deleted the messages from his phone, confirmed the government's proffer at the initial hearing and refute statement made by defense counsel. So pretty much he's already witness tampering by deleting those messages and trying to pretty much disguise what he actually has been saying. Specifically, phone records show that between the end of 2022 and January 2024, witnesses occasionally contacted the defendant by phone without any response from the defendant. That changed in 2024, June. Witness 1 was served with a grand jury subpoena on June 19, 2024, and after contacting the government was appointed counsel on June 25, 2024. Beginning of June 26, 2024, only after witness 1 had been served with a grand jury subpoena and had counsel, the defendant initiated contact with witness 1. So he pretty much got in contact with Dawn and was trying to just pretty much say, hey, I understand. Same thing he was doing with Cassie, but of course Dawn wasn't trying to hear. That's why she still went through her case as well, which the defendant attempted to obscure by initially calling witness one's wife and later communicating with witness one. Oh, wait a minute. This might not be Dawn here. This isn't Dawn. So witness one. Okay, let's see here. Witness one's wife. Let's think about this. Witness one's wife later communicating with witness one. Calling witness one's wife and later communicating with witness one over a VoIP over a phone service, basically. So VoIP service would be phone, including by text and a calling lasting over 7 minutes. Okay. So I'm trying to put my thinking cap on here of whose wife does he know? Calling witness one's wife. Who is witness one? Because witness would be on his side, wouldn't it be? No, not necessarily. Witness one would be someone on, okay. Call us witness one's wife and later communicating with witness one over the phone service, including by text and call lasting over 7 minutes. The following day, phone records indicate that witness one spoke with counsel over the defendant, even though witness one was represented by the counsel. He and the defendant continued to directly exchange text messages, and defense counsel also spoke directly with witness one again on July 8, 2024, following witness one's testimony in the grand jury on July 2025. The defendant called the text witness one again. Called and text witness one again. So pretty much this is witness tampering right here with him calling the witnesses and texting the witnesses. But who is witness one? Who would witness one be, y'all? I wonder who witness one would be. I'm curious now who witness one is going to be. Very interesting. Witness one. We're talking about July 25th, 2024. The defendant called and texted witness one again. The defendant's repeated contact with witness one, despite his apparent knowledge that witness one was represented by counsel and had received a grand jury subpoena, undermines defense counsel's previous denials of the defendant's interference in the government's grand jury investigation and shows that counsel cannot stop the defendant from contacting grand jury witnesses. This concern is amplified by evidence indicating that the defendant appears to have deleted his messages with witness one. Although the phone records confirm that the defendant, using a particular phone number and witness one, exchanged multiple text messages from June 2024 through August 2024. There were no such messages recording from the defendant's cell phone associated with that phone number. So I'm trying to think who would be married that knows Puff. If we're talking about witness one's wife, the only person I could possibly think of, well, not only person, there's two people I can think of. If we're talking about someone that he knows, and we're talking about notifying someone's wife, it's two possible names there. There's Ashton Kutcher, and then there's Machine Gun Kelly. But then again, I can't say Machine Gun Kelly because he's not married, so there has to be Ashton Kutcher because he's the only one that's married. If we're talking about witness one, excuse me, my guess is gonna be witness one is gonna be Ashton Kutcher on this one. If we're talking about someone's wife, he was trying to contact Mila Kunis possibly. This is just a wild guess. Witness two. So the defendant also claims that the defendant's contacts in September 24 with an individual represented by counsel who wanted to make public statement Is my mic on right there? Let me see. Make some. Okay. Make a public statement were not in any way obstructive because the defendant and witness 2 were previously in frequent contact. However, the contact between the defendant and witness 2, who were bandmates, stopped in March 2024. And from the timeline and the context of the defendant's contacts with witness 2, it is clear that when the defendant reinitiated contact with witness 2 in September 2024, his purpose was to ensure that the witness 2 was on his side to pressure witness. Was on his side to pressure witness 2 to make public statement denying allegations of violence by the defendant. So this sounds like Kalina right here. The defendant reached out to witness 2 on September 11, 2024 and sent her a copy of the lawsuit against the defendant in which witness 2 named was mentioned several times. So this is definitely Kalina because she's the only one that did that interview recently on pretty much downplaying everything that Dawn was saying. The defendant then called witness 2. They spoke for nearly 6 minutes. After reading the lawsuit, witness 2 called the defendant back at his request, and they spoke for over 4 minutes. So evidently, the defendant and witness 2 discussed witness 2 drafting a statement as immediately after the call. The defendant told witness 2 in a text message. The defendant then asked witness 2 for her attorney's name from September 11, 2024 through September 15, 2024. The defendant and witness 2 exchanged multiple text messages and had multiple calls, at least 128 phone contacts in total. Jesus Christ, he called more times than a call center in 3 days. 128 phone contacts in total between witness 2 and him. So between him and Kalina, it sounds like. So allegedly, I'm going to say this all allegedly. Throughout the phone contacts, the defendant repeatedly asked witness 2 when she planned to post her. Witness 2 ultimately made a statement about the lawsuit via Instagram post on September 13th, 2024. So that pinpoints something right there. Wait a minute. Ultimately made a statement about the lawsuit via Instagram post. Wait a minute. Wait a second. What was that? Bingo. There's our witness 2. Foxy Brown. It's not Kalina, it's Foxy. It's Foxy. Bingo. There's our witness. There's witness 2. Then after the defendant was in custody, BOP investigators recovered the following notes from the defendant's cell during a pre-planned nationwide sweep of BOP's facilities. XE, the strong interference to be drawn from the defendant's communications with witness 2 and his personal notes is that the defendant paid witness 2 after she posted her statement from the timeline. The content and the context of the communications between the defendant and witness 2. The defendant's clear goal was for witness 2 to draft and post a statement. Even after the defendant knew that was witness 2 had counsel, he continued to reach out to her directly, a fact that clearly concerned Judge Carter, and rightfully so, because now you're pretty much, again, witness tampering and playing in the judge's face when he told you not to. When the Judge Carter told you not to. She told you not to. The defendant had multiple phone contacts with witness 2 up and including March 2024. It changes nothing about the damning timeline and content of the calls in September 2024. These communications are another example of the defendant using manipulation, influence, and the power to persuade witnesses to support him. So, pretty parched there. So, based on the forging, the defendant has not demonstrated that he is entitled to reopen the bail hearing under 18 USC that, okay, so in the law cited by the defendant provides him no support. Otherwise, the defendant's reliance on, okay, United States versus English, misleading. So pretty much he's, okay, so United States versus English. Oh, misleading. Okay, there's not a citing right there. A citation by the defendant suggests that when cases are reassigned to new judges, the court should review the record de novo when considering bail motions. So pretty much they should pretty much throw everything out. It's not how that actually works. Just because you're, you know what I'm saying, bullshitting around, tampering with shit doesn't mean we're going to actually throw shit out because they went and ransacked your shit and found everything. So the Second Circuit's holding was not that broad. In English, the Second Circuit held that the district judge before whom a bail motion is properly made should consider the subsection factors and make the determinations required by 3142 ID at 320 emphasis added. Thus, the inquiry is two steps. First, the court must determine whether the bail motion is properly before it pursuant to 18 USC 3142, that citing again. Excuse me. And two, only if the court finds if the affirmative should the court consider the 3142 factors. Here, because the defendant has not satisfied the first prong, meaning that he pretty much was violating by talking to the witnesses and tampering with shit, the court need not even consider the factors. So the cases cited by the defendant to support his contention that his court has inherent authority to reopen a bail hearing are equally misleading. So this is why I didn't even want to read the other shit right there, because I should say the other whatchamacallit, the new one that got filed. Was it not today? I think it was today or yesterday that got filed, where he addressed the judge. You see, this is the letter right here. So again, the materials provided to the defense counsel. Defense counsel has been provided with 19 pages of materials seized from Mr. Combs' locker at the MDC. According to the government, these 19 pages were given to and are in the possession of the trial team, which has already started using these privileged materials to its advantage, including its opposition to bail. Based on the materials provided as Exhibit A, it appears a government investigator took photographs of several different items. These include intact pages from two different legal pads, pages of an address book, ripped out, folded over page of a third legal pad, ripped out page of another legal pad, ripped out page of yet a different legal pad, as well being described below. The first page is a page from a folded over intact legal pad. The second page is a copy of the first page, but it's partially enlarged. Pages 3 through 11 are pages of an address book. Pretty much just taking down addresses on people. So a private investigator ripped out pages of the book. You shitting me right now? And you talking about something you want him free? You want him free? Wow. And he got investigators doing shit like that. So now you got addresses of people that you're looking for and shit. So this is, again, more evidence of why you're seeing these influencers being walked up on and other people and so on and so forth. They're looking up people's addresses and whatnot. That's crazy to me right now. So pages 14, 15, and 16 appear to be folded over pages of the same intact legal pad. Page 17 is a single folded piece of paper removed from yet another legal pad. This legal pad has 3 vertical lines down the left side, whereas the other 2, okay, so they're just describing actual pages and shit like that. So they pretty much just ripped shit out, and pretty much was these private investigators hired by Diddy are pretty much just witness tampering again. The notes are obviously privileged. Like I said, it doesn't make sense to, drag it on. He's not getting bail. He's not getting bail at all. And this, of course, is the nail in the coffin of why he's not getting bail. This is when, Agnafilo went up there and said, yo, let me just speak my piece. Let me just speak my piece. Because, dog, he's tampering with evidence. You didn't call Foxy, like, allegedly. You didn't call, like, 128 different times. Dog, you doing too much. You doing too much in there. You doing entirely too much. That's what this boils down to. You doing entirely too much. Why do you expect to get any type of sympathy from this judge, the court of public opinion, or thereof, after them finding not only some type of contraband, but mainly the letters is what they want to know about. The letters and the text messages. Dog, why are you doing this to yourself? I don't know why people said this was going to be some type of win for him when they already had probable cause to go up in there. Well, see, that's the thing. I thought about getting a VPN. I thought about it. I still might. But at the same time, ain't for that just yet. It might not be for that just yet. But the Diddy ain't going nowhere, man. The Diddy is staying behind bars. The Diddy is definitely staying behind bars, in my opinion, anyway.